welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. We are on the fourth video regarding the abusive person's allies. Once again referencing Lundy Bancroft's wonderful book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men. The next section is the abusive person's new partner is his or her leading ally. And this ties in nicely with the cluster B conversation. You don't have to be a cluster B to be an abusive person, but this channel is mostly about the cluster B monster, so it's nice to have some overlap in other subjects that relate. Bancroft starts off by telling us that back in the first few chapters, we had met a man with the name of Paul, who had divorced his wife and was now seeing a new lady named Laura. Now this Laura lady felt horrible for Paul because he was such a sweet man, and his ex-wife was accusing him of being an abusive person and abusing her. Laura was determined that she was going to be there for him and even hoped she would help him with custody because that ex-wife is out of control. Bancroft says that dozens of ex-partners of his clients have described how the abusive man's new partner takes on a role similar to Laura's.
His girlfriend is worse than he is. She talks to me like I'm trash, and she spreads bad things all around about me. I'd almost rather deal with him. I think she puts him up to some of the stuff that he does. She is a witch.
Perhaps his new partner really is a mean, horrifying woman, but there's an equally good chance that she ain't. Look through her eyes for a moment. The abusive person is recreating the very same dynamic that he had set up with you. Beginning with loving, attentive treatment, love bombing in the early months, he speaks to her with downcast eyes that well up with tears when he recounts how mean and unreasonable you were to him and how you called him abusive whenever he refused to bow down to your control. If you have children with this creature, his girlfriend's heart is bleeding because he cries in front of her about how much he misses those children and says that you are the one who's keeping them from him. And you're doing it out of pure evil vindictiveness, or out of a desire to turn them over to some other man to be their daddy. Bancroft says that he has one case example where the abusive father decided not to see his son for 6 months. He even put his decision in writing, in a document that Bancroft himself read, and then complained publicly that he was being denied visits with his own children. Paul probably misled Laura in some similar ways. His girlfriend sees a kind, loving parent whose desire to maintain a relationship with his children is being thwarted. How could she not hate you? He may remain on good behavior with his new girl even longer than he did with you, because he is motivated by his campaign against you. Of course, his other side will slip out eventually, but by that time he can blame it all on how badly you have hurt him. His new girlfriend thus gets sucked into breaking her back trying to prove that she's a good woman, unlike you. She hopes that if she can just show and prove her loyalty to him, he'll become loving and available to her once again, just like he was in the beginning, in that love bombing stage. So she wants to prove to him that she is really there for him by joining with, or even outdoing, his hostility toward and blaming of you. By the time his selfish and abusive side finally gets so bad that his new girl can't rationalize it away anymore, she's gonna be in pretty deep. She may even have married this creature by now. For her to accept that he is an abusive person, she would have to face what a terrible wrong she has done to you. And that would be quite a bitter pill, or a jagged little pill, Alanis, to swallow. So what tends to happen instead is that his new partner becomes angrier and angrier at you for the way she has been treated by him, believing that you made him this way by hurting him so badly. A couple of years ago, Bancroft says that he worked with a lady who said that she really hated the guy's ex-girlfriend. But now she's realizing he must have done the same crap to her as he's doing to her. Her guilt weighed heavily upon her. Ladies tend to need a long time before they can accept having been used in this way. Now back to the story of Paul and Laura. We never met Paul's ex-wife, but he's talked to 24 or more women in her position among the ex-partners of his clients. It's difficult to capture the pain he hears in the voices of these ladies whose abusive ex-partners are attempting to take their kids away from them through the legal system. And the fact that they have a female ally helping them carry out this nefarious plan is almost too much to handle. The mothers ask him,
does she realize what she's doing? Has she bothered to think about what it's like for a mother to be threatened with losing her children? What if he turns around years from now and does the same thing to her?
At the same time, Bancroft believes it's important not to judge the new partner too harshly. He sometimes tells ladies, you know how manipulative he can be, and he's sure to be feeding her carefully crafted distortions. I'm not saying you should excuse her actions, just reminding you that the one behind it all is him, not her. If you pour your energy into hating her, you are inadvertently serving his interests. We do, however, need to create a social ethic that makes it clear that anyone who chooses to go to bat for a man accused of abuse has a responsibility to get every single fact and not just the view that he promotes. The abuse of ladies is simply too rampant for anybody to assume that an allegation is just false, fake news, or exaggerated without checking it out very, very, very carefully. Finally, he's had several cases in which the abuser's new partner was a man who became a gunner for the abuser against the abused woman, just as a new female partner sometimes does. Some peer groups of gay men have negative attitudes towards women and become cheerleaders for abuse, just as straight male peers can. The next part of this section is other abusers of power as allies of abusive men. Bancroft tells us that you probably have come into contact at some point in life by some person who is deeply motivated and attracted to exercising their power over other people. Partner abusers have no monopoly on the desire to intimidate or manipulate others, or the skills for accumulating power and using it for selfish purposes or emotional gratification. Then he talks about professionals, how he realizes there are some who are expected in this society to constructively respond to abusive people and their partners, but there are some out there who are motivated not by caring, respect, and empathy for others, but they're hungry for control. Not everybody who enters the police, for example, wishes to be a public servant. There are many of those who just want to carry that gun, drive that motorcycle, and threaten and yell at people, push people around, being above the law, like you know who. Bancroft says he also knows many humane judges who take an interest in the challenges that people face and seek fair and practical responses, but he watches others who seem to get off out of insulting those who come before them, dismissing all their concerns and perspectives, and acting with impunity. Among therapists, there are plenty whose goal is teamwork, while there are many others who look down upon their client and speak in a condescending way to them, making pronouncements about what each person really thinks, feels, and needs to do. There are custody evaluators who are eager to lend a hand through the painful process of the divorce, but tragically there's a large number of them that are appearing to be enamored with the power over the lives of men, women, and children that their custody recommendations give them. People who are attracted to power and tend to abuse it have important common ground with a man who abuses ladies. For example, a dictatorial boss is bound to encounter some occasions when an employee finally gets fed up with its crap, enough to swear and stomp out of the office. and then quit. A manager who coerces the female subordinates into sexual contact with him may get reported for sexual harassment sooner or later. The abusive person of power feels outraged when his or her victims attempt to defend themselves in these ways and considers them to be the unreasonable or aggressive ones. So it's not surprising that such a person, when looking at a lady who's complaining of abuse by a man, he might have the following thoughts.
This chick is another one of those people who likes to play the role of the victim. I know what they're like because I have to deal with them all the time myself. They are never grateful no matter how much you do for them. They don't know their place, and everything turns into an accusation of mistreatment.
The abusive person of power thus may personalize the woman's resistance to oppression and feel a strong desire to retaliate on behalf of the abusive man. And in fact, Bancroft has often observed this disturbing eagerness among some professionals to jump on abused ladies with both feet. Their statements have sometimes confirmed to him that they do indeed have the kind of thought process that he's just described, coupled, of course, with the usual myths regarding ladies' hysterical exaggerations and their provocation of men's abuse. A professional who's drawn to abusing power seems to have particularly strong reactions if the lady challenges his or her actions in any way or attempts to explain the effects the abuser has had on her. The underlying attitude sometimes appears to be, "How dare you continue to attempt to think for yourself when I'm here before you with my obviously superior knowledge, status, judgment, and insight." An abused lady can walk away from an interaction with such a professional feeling like she has just been beaten up, recreating the ugliness of the verbal or physical abuse she suffered from her partner. A number of abused ladies have said to Bancroft, for example,
"The police came by my house once after he pushed me around, but they were angry and insulting me and kind of buddied up to him. And when I complained about how they were treating me, they told me if I didn't shut my mouth, they would arrest me."
Bancroft has been involved in cases where some judges and custody evaluators, both ladies and men, go out of their way to discredit and demean ladies who report abuse and request protection for themselves and or their children. And if the lady protests the unprofessional response, they explode into verbally abusing her or retaliating against her. In this way, the mentality and tactics of certain professionals can closely parallel those of abusive people, and the result is re-victimization of the lady. In some institutions whose own power dynamics have tended to fall badly on abused women in these ways, such as police departments, courtrooms, and child protective services, social pressure has brought about the creation of positions for abused ladies advocates or domestic violence specialists whose job it is to make sure that the abused lady is not re-victimized by the system. That should be there to protect her rights. If you are involved with one of these systems, find out whether an abuse specialist is on staff, and if so, request that they bring that person into your case.
I am the Narcopath, and I'm here to give you a few more confessions. I know you want them. I figured you were gonna ask, so I thought I'd beat you to the punch. But remember the weekend we went to your family's lake house? You had several family members there from what I understood, and personally I can't stand lakes. I can't stand fishing boats and all the crap you wanted to do, but did I say anything?
I said, "Oh, you want to go fishing to your family's boathouse? Oh, I'd love to. Especially when I found out the particular area it was at." I remember we went one afternoon. You rented a boat from the paddle boat center. I don't know if you noticed or not. There was a hot hung stud working there, giving the boats out. I noticed you kind of looking at him and then looking at me, and you showed a little bit of insecurity and asked, "You looking at that guy? Do you think he's cute? You think he's cuter than I am?" And of course, I said, "What? What guy? I didn't look at any other guy." But then, notice how a little bit later that afternoon, you got a strange phone call. For one of your relatives, a little over yonder the hill, needed to have your assistance. It was an emergency. You left me. I told you I'd be fine. I could walk back to our cabin, and I stayed at the boathouse, and I could tell you were a little insecure. So what? I knew you thought that I thought that boat guy was hot, and you disappeared. You went over to your relative. Several hours went by. I was nowhere to be found. You tried to call me. I didn't answer. Later, you came back to the cabin, and I was there exhausted. I was very exhausted. And you had the nerve to ask what I did while you were gone, because the call you got turned out to be nothing. You know where that call originated from? I needed you out of the way, because that guy who worked in the boathouse, he was the hottest stud ever. And I happened to have seen him before. I was running through that town before. And when you told me where it was, I was hoping to see him. He knows not to address me in front of other people. So that's why it seemed like we didn't know each other. But I could tell you were insecure about him because, quite frankly, he's hotter than you. He's more hot than you. I needed to get rid of you temporarily, and you were gone. And when you were gone, I was pumped in and out of my Virginia, until I squirted. Oh my God! You didn't need to know about any of it. Plus, your insecurity was not becoming. Who cares if I was with him? Who cares if I thought he was hot? I know I told you, oh honey, I couldn't dare even think of being with anyone else but you. I didn't even notice the boy in the boathouse. You were supposed to buy it, and you did. So, I was home free. But I figured since I'm giving confessions, I might as well let you know what really happened.
Oh my God, you were so old-fashioned when we dated.
You actually talked about us having a baby.
Oh, I'm so glad that never happened because, frankly,
If I would have become pregnant, we wouldn't know whose it really is. Chances are you with your white face and white hair would be staring at a black baby that obviously wouldn't have been yours, and I wouldn't have been able to explain that one away. I'm pretty glad that didn't happen. But if it would have, oh my God, you would have been mortified. Be thankful it didn't happen.
when we first started to date, I know that you knew that I previously used to get around. You knew that I'd had at least 7 relationships in the last 4 months.
But then, shortly after we met, I was telling you I wanted to get married. And you had the nerve to ask me if that's the way I acted with all of my boyfriends, because none of them worked out. I just told you that I could tell that you were the one. I don't know if you bought that one or not. I told you I wanted to settle down in an old-fashioned romantic relationship, just the 2 of us together. And you had the nerve to talk about my past. The fact that right before I met you, I dated 7 other guys, which meant 7 other times 10 clocks in my Virginia, and wondered what was so good about yours. Well, truthfully, nothing. They had more girth, they had more length, but you had the money I wanted. I figured I'd just be old-fashioned and tell you that you were the one, that I couldn't explain it. This time it's real. And you kept bringing up my past, and I just wanted you to think, well, that's the past.
I've decided I don't want to have 7 lovers in 4 months. I want to be with one forever, and it's you.
Plus, I never told you that I was a transgendered lesbian, and I've got the hots for Sandy Hoaxtard on Channel 5, and I want to tune into her now. She makes me wet. You never could. Hi, I'm Sandy Hoaxtard coming to you live from TV5 Fake News. UFOs. Have you heard about them? Chances are you have lately. They might as well stand for unidentified flying orifices for all I care. I just figured you all should know. This UFO crap you're hearing about is fake. Don't let them tell you that this UFO secret program's been going on for just a few years. Honey, it's been going on for centuries. We were told previously it ended, but now we're told that it never ended, which basically tells you that your government lies to you. Isn't that a great feeling? This is all part of a scam and a scandal. They're gonna try to convince you that aliens are here, and E.T. Phone Home is here too, and that we're gonna have to all band together and be one government. We're gonna have to be one religion, one everything. And my question for these New World Order freaks is, honey, you want to divide and conquer, yet now you want us all to be one thing? I don't think so. You haven't conditioned us for that. You've conditioned us to hate other races. You've conditioned us to hate Muslims. Christians are what you hate. You want us all to be at odds with each other, but then you want to turn around and do a new world order and have us all be under one thing? I don't think so, retard. Anyway, that's my own personal opinion. This is Sandy Hoaxtard, exclusively with you live tonight on TV5 Fake News. Back to the UFOs. Do not believe it. Do not fall for it. It's a scam. If anything, whatever aliens they're going to show you, if they even do, they probably won't, those aliens have been here for years. They aren't from outer space. They aren't extraterrestrial. Accept the fact. And don't fall for their crap. This is Sandy Hoaxtard with your short news brief, signing off. Ta-ta.